Okay, hello everybody. Nice to see you all. So in this session, we're going to be looking at what is anger. So what we're going to try and do is clearly recognize or identify anger within our own mind, so that eventually we can reduce and finally abandon this mind. It's important to understand that we can abandon this mind, because at the moment we feel it's just such an ingrained part of us. But in reality, anger, like any other delusion, is a temporary mind, it's impermanent. If something is impermanent, it can change, and if it can change, it can cease. So we'll hopefully, in this session, look clearly as to what anger is, how it arises within our mind, and how if we do this and we clearly identify it, we have an opportunity to therefore reduce and finally abandon it. So what is anger? Well, very simply, it's our worst enemy. If we check within our mind, in reality, anger is the most corrosive and destructive mind we can hold. There is no more corrosive or destructive mind that we can hold other than anger. It destroys our own inner peace and our own happiness. And it also destroys the inner peace and the happiness of those who are unlucky enough to come into contact with us when we're in the grip of anger. So this is a very important discrimination with anger. We need to be clear that this is our worst enemy. Because as you know, when we're in the grip of anger, it feels like anger is our best friend, putting our enemies in their rightful place by harsh words and so forth. In truth, without anger there are no enemies. Anger creates enemies. It's actually impossible to perceive someone as an enemy if you don't have anger in your mind. If there were no anger in our mind, there would be no enemies. Full stop. Anger is the basis for perceiving enemy. So if we contemplate deeply in this way and meditate on it for some time and apply mindfulness in our day to take this understanding to our heart, then what we'll see in time is that we naturally begin to put a distance between ourselves and anger, naturally. As you know, we always naturally put a distance between ourselves and anything we think is going to harm us, or anyone normally who we think is going to harm us. So if we contemplate deeply that anger is our worst enemy, we'll naturally put a distance between ourselves and anger. And over time, we will begin to feel that anger reduce in our mind and finally attain a cessation. So more precisely, what exactly is anger? So in this book, How to Solve Our Human Problems, Geshe Kelsang explains very clearly what is anger. He says, what is anger? Anger is a deluded mind that focuses on an animate or inanimate object, feels it to be unattractive, exaggerates its bad qualities, and wishes to harm it. So, anger is a deluded mind based on a distortion of reality. It's never in accordance with reality. It's important to understand this, never in accordance with what's really happening. It focuses on an animate or inanimate object. Animate is just someone, and inanimate is something. It feels it to be unattractive in some way, and then exaggerates out of all proportion its bad qualities. And on the basis of that exaggeration, what's called inappropriate attention, develops the wish to harm, naturally. So I think what's best way of understanding this, if we look at it from a very practical day-to-day point of view, like a normal daily experience. Because as you know with anger, what's really happening a lot is we're feeling the impact of anger in our lives. We're feeling the impact of it, but we don't really know what's going on, do we? You're just all of a sudden in the grip of a rage or just seething for some reason. I don't know what's happened. I haven't got a clue. So, how then do we do this? Let's take a simple example. Monday morning, and for some strange reason, you're in a peaceful, happy mood. You're walking through a park on a sunny Monday morning on your way to work. And on the way, you start to see in the distance your bus pulling near to your bus stop. But you think, I've got quite a lot of time to catch that bus, no big problem. I'll start to run now. So we start to run. And as we're running, we're still quite peaceful. If you think about it at this point, nice, easy Monday morning. And then just as we get to the bus stop, in a bit of a sweat, the bus pulls away. Instantaneously, anger arises, doesn't it? Like straight away, we're shouting at the bus driver. We're even kicking the bus as if he's going to stop if we kick the bus. And anger's in our mind. But what we need to understand is what is actually happening in that moment. What's actually happening? So as we're running towards the bus, we don't have a problem. But as we get near the bus, we see the bus pull away, immediately we become unhappy. Immediately. We feel some pain. And then what we do, utterly instinctively, is we look outside for the object of blame. You see, this is all entirely instinctive. Because we normally believe that happiness and suffering come from outside of ourselves, we can't but instinctively look out of our side of ourselves for the object of blame. It's utterly instinctive, coming from our normal deluded view. But the truth is, the reality is, the pain, the unhappy feeling is coming because we're grasping tightly at our wish for that bus to wait for us. There's a direct correlation between the amount of pain in our mind at those times and how tightly we're grasping at our wishes. But we're just not aware of that. We think it's the bus driver. So we found our object of blame, and our mind, as you know, very quickly, in the flash of an eye, starts to focus on the bus driver. If we're lucky, we've only seen the back of their head, but we can make their whole life up in an instant, can't we? I bet he's been doing that all morning. I bet he gets a kick out of it. Do you know that feeling, don't you? And all you've seen is the back of his head. Maybe it's his haircut that gives us the evidence. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. It's just the way our mind works. We have to have an object of blame, and it's outside of myself. You can see, can't you, why we frequently get angry with those that are closest to us, those we love. If we can get angry with the imaginary faults of an imaginary bus driver, we can certainly get angry with the people we know closest in our lives because we think we know their faults. It's actually quite clear their faults. I've got years of evidence. So when there's a conflict between us, we think we have years of evidence to bring to the table for why I'm now angry. The closer we get to anyone, the more we see their faults. And that's why the people we mostly get angry with are the people that are closest to us. So this is the first step. We've identified the object of blame being outside of ourselves, and now we fixate on the bad qualities of this imagined bus driver, who he is. We don't even think for one moment that that morning his boss might have said to him, you know, you've got to stop waiting for people at the bus stop. I know you're a very kind person, but you're causing us a load of problems. In fact, if you keep doing it, I'm going to sack you. All we think is he's inherently bad. He could be driving away crying for all we know. Maybe not. So once we fixate, we then create the inherently faulty person within our mind. We believe they just are. And what else are you going to do with an inherently faulty person other than develop the mind of anger, wishing to harm in some way? So then we maybe kick out at the bus, kick out at the bus driver, kick the bus shelter, all of these various things we do. But actually, sometimes we do nothing. We just sit and see. You see, anger is the wish to harm. We may think we're quite a patient person because we're not involved in rage, external rage all day long, but rage is just anger expressed. In fact, we're getting angry a lot more during the day than we think. But in polite society, it's not a good idea to express your anger. And because we're quite attached to what people think of us, we rarely express it. And in fact, that's even more corrosive and more destructive because we seethe, we develop resentment, which is the continuity of anger. We let the anger continue within our mind, thinking in some way we're a patient, accepting person, and all we're doing is repressing our anger. So anger is just a wish to harm. Rage is anger expressed. So, in this way, if we check, this is how anger develops within our mind. We're convinced, aren't we, that anger is coming from the difficulty, the difficult person, the difficult situation. In truth, anger arises only due to our inability to accept the difficult situation and the difficult person. Only. So, if we want to be free of anger, as you can guess, what we need to do simply is learn, cultivate the ability to accept the inevitable difficulties that we'll meet. Obviously, if anger arises due to our inability to accept, we just need to cultivate the ability to accept. And that's the mind of patient acceptance. Not just accepting, but happily accepting. And if we can happily accept, we can be at peace, we can be happy. If we never learn to accept, we'll never be at peace, we'll never be happy. So in this situation, when the bus pulls away, instead of becoming upset and then kicking into this mind of anger, all we do simply is think, I accept. If I accept, I'm at peace. If I'm at peace, I've got 10 minutes to sit and wait for the next bus with a peaceful mind. How often do you get the opportunity to just sit on a sunny day beside a park with a peaceful mind? It's quite simple, really, but unfortunately, as you know, simple and easy are not the same word. But, if we start with small things, we will be able to eventually reduce and finally abandon this mind of anger. Thank you.